Season 5, Episode 40 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Mid Steelers. I am Sam Fetterman. With me, as always, or almost always, is Jonathan Litzkin. Jonathan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, Sam. I'm great.
Jonathan, would you like to introduce our first guest of the season?
Yes, I know. I can't believe it's December 5th and Isaac is our first guest of the season. But yeah, Isaac Trotter of 24/7 Sports joining us today for a little breakdown of the ACC SEC Challenge as well as the Big 12 Big East battle.
And some Big Ten play.
Yeah, and some Big Ten conference play, which we'll get into a little bit as well.
Might also get into some Valley update later in the show. Jonathan, you're excited for that. All right, the first thing we have to start with was the wild Wednesday night in college basketball. Just kind of starting with the ACC SEC Challenge, which was dominated and controlled by the SEC. Isaac, were there any themes that you saw kind of stand out in these games?
Yeah, I think the richer conference dominates. I think that's the thing that I keep going back to is just like when we were here in the portal season, you're just constantly seeing the numbers that are thrown out by some of these SEC schools. And you go up and down these rosters and you're like, yeah, everybody's pretty good. Like, yeah, maybe I'm not super in on LSU this year, but that's a decently talented roster. And then you go at the ACC and it's like, this just leaves you wanting a little bit more. And so like I feel like the caliber of rosters that we've seen in the SEC is a direct correlation with the amount of money that's invested into some of these programs. Every SEC school feels like it goes into the portal with a chance to be relevant. Even teams like Vanderbilt, who are near the bottom of the barrel, you cannot say that about the ACC, and that showed up on the court.
I completely agree. I mean, my whole running joke this year has been, oh, Boston College, that's an A10 team. Virginia Tech is a CAA team. And I'm not going to say the third one because they might be proving me slightly wrong. But I think you just look at some of the teams at the bottom of the ACC that clearly have zero money. I mean, even Virginia, like, they don't have money. It's hard to get in there. Isaac McNeely is doing his best. But yeah, and teams like Wake Forest have really struggled this year. But just going back to Wednesday night, Duke was one of the two ACC teams to pick up a win, and they did it because Jon Scheyer finally realized that he had two 5-star freshmen just hanging out on his bench. He only played one of them, but it didn't really matter because that one dropped 6 threes in the first half. Isaiah Evans with his breakout performance. Isaac, what was your main takeaway from this Duke-Auburn game?
Evans was phenomenal. You know, I think the offensive rebounding for Duke was huge too. I think they had 12 offensive rebounds. And then I looked it up today, 1.33 points per possession for Duke against that Auburn team. Auburn hadn't given up 1.33 points per possession since the 2021 season against LSU with Cam Thomas. So like it's been a minute since Auburn has been roasted like this offensively. And then Cooper Flag just like, I don't care who's guarding me. Like, I'm killing you. It was Todd Pettiford. It was Chaney Johnson. It was Janai Broome. It was double teams over Janai and over the big man inside Dylan Cardwell. Chad Baker-Mazara, your turn. Come on, fella. Like, we'll take you for a ride, too. Like, everything. And so I was just really, really impressed by what Duke did offensively. I don't think they necessarily ran like some unbelievable actions, but just the ability to attack switches and to offensive rebound and to move without the basketball, I thought was all pretty good. Again, though, even in that game, like I was blown away by Auburn. Like, how can you not be? Like, Auburn still has a chance, I think, to be the number one team in the country. And if I was doing my power rankings right now, even after that loss, they'd still be number one for me.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan, you texted me during this game about Auburn's ball denials. We kind of had a conversation about that. Duke only turned it over 4 times. What did Duke do to prevent turnovers in this game?
Well, I think they just played more connected, you know, mixing up the rotations. Isaiah Evans really seemed to be able to find space, and, you know, guys were looking for him. but like it was a lot less, just giving the ball to Flag and letting him go attack. Like he turned it over a lot in the Kansas game. And part of that is Kansas, has some guys that match up with him really well. But the other part of that is, you're not solely relying on one guy to make every single play down the floor for you during a stretch of the game.
Did you also think it was interesting that Cayman Maliwak only played 15 minutes in that game? And I wonder if that correlated with the turnover rate being down, because having someone like when you go with Malik Brown, I think you have an outlet against that pressure that can make a little bit better decisions. I think if you're looking at Maliwak, like that's the one little question about his game. Like they have a lot of size when he's on the floor, but they get a lot more skill when Brown checks in. I just like how they look when Brown's on the floor better. It works better for me. I think it does. That's what I like. And I think offensively, with how good of an offensive rebounding team Duke might end up being, if you just don't turn it over and get a shot attempt, that's a win. And it happens. I feel like I check the advanced stats on that, but it feels like when Brown's on the floor, their turnover rate is much lower.
Yeah, there was also.
I wonder who's been talking about Malik Brown for 3 years now.
Yeah, there was also the aspect of like, it was pretty evident from when the game started, and like we didn't really go over this in a preview or anything like that, but like Malik Brown is just a way better matchup for Janai Broom on the defensive end. He moves laterally way quicker than Maliwak does. He obviously doesn't have the length to block shots, but against a guy like Janai Broom, you're not going to block a lot of shots anyway. And there were a couple possessions early in the game where Broom just like completely eliminated him with a post move. And I think I saw last night that Broom finished the night 2 of 7 when Brown was the primary defender. He's one of the best defenders in the country and proved that last night. So if he's going to do that on the defensive end and also have this like micro, not skill, but like micro advantage on the offensive end where Duke doesn't give up the ball as much, it's going to be hard to keep him off the floor, and especially like when you're closing games.
I mean, I again texted this to you, Jonathan, last night. Cooper Flag is number 2 in Ken Pom National Player of the Year right now. He's averaging, 18, 7, 4, 2, and 2. Something like that. 16.5, 8, 4, 1.5, and 1.5. And it still doesn't feel like he's fully like had that Cooper Flag is here game. Like, again, Kentucky he played awesome. Like he wasn't hitting outside shots in that game. I feel like when he starts to get outside shots to fall, like this Duke team is going to have way more options. And hey, look what happened. They gave the ball to Tyrese Proctor in some big situations, and it actually worked. Tyrese Proctor had a couple big shots late in the game. They needed to go to him because you can't always just defer to Cooper Flag, defer to Con Knippel. Con has struggled in the big games this year. 17% from 3 in the big games, 4 for 23. He is 12 for 22 in the other 4 games. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on with Con. And then Sion James gets the start over Caleb Foster. Jonathan, what did you think about Sion's performance?
I didn't think he was fantastic. I actually thought the best thing that Sion James starting did last night was it clearly lit a fire under Caleb Foster and, awoken him with sending him to the bench. I don't think Sion's like ever going to be a star and take over this game, but, he gives you another guy that can be a connecting piece and get downhill. He's good in transition. He did finish with 9 last night, which he was certainly a plus, but I think Duke starting him was more of just a wake-up call to a guy in Caleb Foster who they needed to be better if they wanted to hit their ceiling long-term. James will always be the guy that you can bring in. He'll play defense for you. He can start he can start and finish a fast break. I just thought it was a very prototypical Sion James game last night.
I feel like I have 0 questions about Duke when James is on the floor. Like, I just know what I'm getting from him. He's really trustworthy. A lot of deflections. Again, I think he had 5 stocks last night in 23 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And then just the physicality. When he's on the floor, I think that they reach a different gear with their physicality. He makes them really switchable, but I also think sometimes when you have these big teams, like those switchable teams also get labeled by screens a lot. James doesn't necessarily do that. I thought his screen navigation is something that's really helpful for this Duke team. But I think, Jonathan, you kind of nailed it. I think this is a lot, too, about, like, what can we unlock with our sophomore guard here in Caleb Foster? Like, what type of version of it? Because I think my one hot take with Duke this year was that, like, Flagg wasn't going to lead them in scoring, and I thought that Foster might have a chance to. That is, like, maybe my worst offseason hot take so far.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I tweeted this last night. Like, all things considered, Cooper Flagg, I think, is a better prospect than I thought he was a month ago. Like, I didn't the creation stuff on the offensive end, I did not think he was going to be that type of player at the college level, and he has been.
Yeah, and he's doing so much more on the ball.
I just looked at the splits on Hoop Explorer with Malik and not Malawach. 14.2 turnover rate with Malawach and not Brown. 16.5, so not a huge difference. This is in their top 100 games, so they're four big games. But yeah, and then on the Auburn side of things, nobody comes away from this game thinking any less of Auburn. Like this could be a matchup we see on Monday night in April.
Yeah, I will say I wish that they would run their stuff more offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get into like the I can make a tough shot mode so much. When they run their offense, they get great looks every time. It's like just run the offense and you'll get something good off of that. You'll get a good look off that. I get the tough shot making that we've seen Chad Baker-Mazara do. We've seen some of the Todd Pettiford stuff, but I wonder how often that's going to get them in trouble eventually. Because at least someday some of those shots are not going to go in. And we start to see that a little bit late in that second half where Tahad takes a couple tough ones off the bounce. He probably earned it with how well he played. But sometimes I just think that they got some great looks if they just ran their stuff. Like, just stay a little bit more patient. We could talk about the Denver Jones stuff. Like, I don't think he was great last night. I like them when Tahad's on the floor a little bit more. Especially offensively, and Jones's decision making, like some of his drives, like had zero chance before they even started. Like he's driving in there, and I'm like, well, I don't see it. Like I just don't understand what you saw in this possession. But for the most part, I think that Auburn offensively did enough to win the game last night. I think Bruce Pearl said that too after the game. Like 1.24 points per possession. Like, yeah, you should 78 points on the road against Duke. Like, yeah, you should win that game if your defense is a little bit better.
I completely agree. And with the Denver Jones point as well, don't really have much more to go off of. Don't really have a ton more time to go and talk this game if we want to get to everything from the ACC, SEC, and the Big East, Big 12. Alabama, North Carolina was last night in Chapel Hill, just 8 miles as the crow flies. Shout out to Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander for that one. No Latrell Wrightsell for Alabama. No Chris Youngblood. And absolutely zero problem. They were the better team for 40 minutes in this game. They came out strong. And it really didn't matter what North Carolina threw on the floor. Alabama was the better team.
Yeah, I'll start here. I don't know if this defense is fixable. Like, I actually think like they played better last night because of how fast the game was played, and like their defense actually like improved season long last night. But you have Jalen Washington, I guess, is your best rim protector. I guess, but he hasn't been great this year. Sam, we can say it a billion times and it won't make it any less true. Like, why did this team take Jalen Withers 2 years ago?
I said this the moment they took Jalen Withers, and I've stood by it the whole time. I think Hubert might have needed to do that family a favor.
Yeah, I know that centers aren't exactly the easiest thing to go out and get in the portal, but
they missed on a lot. They wanted Cliff, they wanted Onyensa, they wanted a million guys.
Yeah, I mean, how you don't replace how your Baycott replacement was Van Allen Lubin, who can barely see the floor in some of these games was pretty mind-boggling. And what sucks even more for UNC is it completely feels like they're wasting these guards now because RJ Davis isn't even playing his best. You've gotten really good moments out of Cadeau. He's had great games. He's had some bad moments. And then Seth Trimble's jump has just been unbelievable. And Ian Jackson has been really good in a couple games too. But like, it doesn't matter how good these guys are on the offensive end because they just cannot get stops.
I didn't think North Carolina came in with a very good plan yesterday either. You know, their transition defense was atrocious. They were not matching up. They were not finding guys. They weren't lassoing guys in transition. The miscommunication errors all over the place. I mean, Alabama just like torched them in transition for easy bucket after easy bucket. Even after made shots, Alabama's running and getting great looks off of a couple. It's just like, that's Alabama's game. Like, you don't like, it's not that complicated. You have to know that going into the game, and to not be able to execute that or even, you know, slow them down even a little bit is frustrating, because I don't think anybody, you know, I was a little bit higher on North Carolina. I think I had them like 11th in the preseason.
Yeah, I was right around there too.
Yeah. Like I thought the perimeter point of attack defense was going to be a strength, and it can't be when you're letting teams just score in like crazy in transition because you can't get set in your half court defense. Like, it just, you know, I hate to say it, but they just don't feel well coached right now. And maybe it's also just the roster. You're small at the perimeter, you're small on the wings, and you're small inside, and it just all piles up on you like that. But like, just I felt like they didn't take anything away from Alabama. Alabama got to do whatever it wanted, whenever it wanted.
The thing I kind of said was like, just commit to the bit, Hubert, and like just go play, like go all out for offense. Don't worry about the defense. And it felt like they did that in this game, and they didn't even get a point per possession. Part of that is shooting 18% from 3, 5 for 28. Maybe if they shoot 10 for 28, they don't lose this game by 15. That's 15 extra points. But I mean, that's saying that's asking for 5 more shots to drop. That's asking for a big day for a whole bunch of other players that you didn't get a big day from. And that's problematic. I do think that I'm not like I don't think I'm like concerned in the sense that like they could miss the tournament with North Carolina, but like what we know about them, like they can't, again, it's the roster. Like, they can't fix this defense. Nothing's gonna change that. So everything for this team is gonna come down to offense. We've seen teams with a great offense that can't stop anything go to the Final Four. We saw it with Alabama last year. I don't think this North Carolina team is as good as that Alabama team, but like, you can't tell me that there's not a path for this team to be really good even with no defense.
Well, I think the one thing that I was noticing too, if you look at RJ Davis's rim finishing numbers, he's around like 45% in half court scenarios so far this year. Part of me wonders how much they're missing Baycott screens. Like, are any of these bigs able to scrape some of these defenders off of RJ to get him downhill, to get to the rim, to get better finish? You know what I mean? Like they're missing him offensively as well as defensively. But I think your point is a good one, because if we learned anything from the ACC SEC challenge, I think it's just like, hey, these SEC rosters look way different than the ACC ones. So maybe North Carolina will be just fine in ACC play. Like, how many truly SEC caliber rosters are there in the ACC? Duke, and after that, it's like, right, all right,
it gets slim.
Yeah, so like, yeah, there's going to be
healthy Louisville, but they're not healthy.
I don't know. Louisville doesn't have like those like super strong.
Yeah, they don't have SEC athletes.
No, they don't.
So like, I think you're right that Carolina's going to be just fine in the ACC. I mean, would it surprise you at all if they go like win 14 games in ACC play? Not really. I wouldn't be that stunned. Like, look at this league.
They're what, second, maybe third best team in that league?
Yeah, I mean, it is concerning that to this point, like, one of the takeaways you could have is if one of those 3 guards doesn't play well, like, they're not going to beat anyone at the pulse. But like we kind of said, the ACC has like 3 teams with a pulse.
The third team with a pulse did not have a pulse last night. They went into the hump and they got humped. Okay.
You had that one in your holster for a while, didn't you?
No, I actually just came up with that on the fly.
Don't lie.
I'm not lying. Legitimately. This Mississippi State team rocks. Like, they are good. They're fun. Like, that's not something I've been able to say about Mississippi State the past couple of years. They're fun. Like, they're legitimately fun to watch. If that Butler game didn't happen, a lot more people would be talking about them right now.
Mm-hmm. It's always awesome when two teams separated by 15 spots play each other and switch Ken Palm spots essentially after playing each other.
I feel I wonder how that Butler game is going to look in like 2 months. I'd be stunned. Are we going to look back and go like Butler lost or Butler beat Mississippi State by what? Like, it's just going to be one of those weird ones because Mississippi State, like you said, they're really, really good.
Boise State, Boston College.
That one's gross. That one's really gross. Mississippi State is really good. I think their rim pressure is just nuts. Like, they can get it from everybody. It's Riley Kugel. It's Cam Matthews. RJ Melendez will shot fake and drive you. Nwoko, I know a lot of people really liked him in the portal. Like, he's been a good player for them. Obviously, Hubbard there. Claudel Harris. It's just like they just go down and down the list. Clary didn't even play yesterday. Mississippi State's super deep. You got him at home. Pitt isn't right now. I think that was kind of the difference in the game yesterday, especially with the number of athletes that Mississippi State has.
Yeah.
And again, Keyshawn Murphy is not a guy who a lot of people were talking about before the season, but he's had a really strong start to the season for Mississippi State. He's been their number one usage guy, and they can feed him down low. They can run a bunch of different stuff to get him involved, and he's just been a beast down there.
He passes the eye test.
Oh, no doubt. The Mississippi State as a team passes the eye test. Not something you could have said about them the last 2 years.
Yeah, and kind of touching on that, Sam, like, one of the things that I like Chris Jans has done in the last couple of years is when he took over at Miss State to rebuild the program, he kind of built them in like the trenches first. We're going to be this really physical, like, strong defensive team, and we'll figure out the offense as we get better players. And now they have the better players.
So, like,
not only are they like, still a good defensive team, maybe not as good as some of those teams the past couple of years, but still a very good one. But now, like, they have enough good offensive players that they're going to be like a tougher scout from what like SEC teams have seen from them the last couple of years.
Mississippi State is like they are turning into SEC Iowa State with just the way that they're evolving every single year.
I'm curious to see how this turnover rate continues. If this is an anomaly or if this is just the start of things to come. Because the Mississippi State right now, go ahead.
I think it's definitely a slight anomaly. Like, they're not going to be third the whole year with guards that handle the ball that much.
Agreed. But if they can just be like at a 15% turnover rate, that's fine. Like, I totally take that right now. Sign me up for that right away, especially when you factor in what they're going to be on the glass and, like you said, the number of athletes that they have. And Jans is a really good coach. And don't forget who he hired this offseason, adding to who they're scouting.
Mr. Sperber.
Sam, does it concern you at all that, like, Miss State's now, like, easily best result of the season came without Kanye Clary?
Does it concern me? It's exactly what I would have predicted. Every Penn State fan said that he was a net negative last year. Every single one of them. When an entire fan base agrees about a player, they are usually right.
That's my line. Thank you.
Credit that line to Mr. Lidskin over there.
Yeah, that's a line I use about coaches too. Specifically,
offensive coordinators.
Specifically, one that may or may not be coaching at Arkansas right now.
Should we get into that?
Yeah, sure.
I think we should get into that because that man is approaching a level of wash that has been achieved by the man that he beat. Jonathan, go first.
I mean, like, do you want me to, like, reference what I said on Sunday nights here?
Yes.
Okay, just so Isaac hears this. On Sunday night, I said that people may have not realized it yet, but John Calipari is in like his Jim Boeheim arc right now. We're like, and he may not get that far because he's at a program that has enough money that they probably shouldn't ever be as bad as some of those Syracuse teams at the end.
They were bad.
But like you watch Arkansas and they just like don't look like they just don't look like a basketball team, which is like kind of what Syracuse was at the last end of Boeheim's career. And like I don't know how it's possible, but like he's effectively ruined John L. Davis and Jonas Adu, who were both all conference and like in Davis's case, all American last year, to play, Zvonimir Ivicic, who's been fine, and like Davis has been playing, but like clearly clearly his success was like a lot based off of like the spacing of Dusty May's system at FAU. So like, Miami has just like he scored 1.12 points per possession the other night, which like in a normal game doesn't seem bad, but like Miami is literally like 350th in like adjusted defense right now, not including preseason priors, obviously. So like, I'm like for this pod's sake, Sam, I said that if Arkansas lost this game, it would be the last time we talked about them this year. They didn't lose, so.
I do this story of like 10 trends for CBS every week, and I cut like random stuff up on tape. And one of the random things that I'm thinking about cutting up is Nelly Davis like standing with his hands like waiting for the ball, and he doesn't get it over and over and over again. Like I think there's a world where Davis might have transferred from one of the best passing teams to one of the worst passing teams in the sport. Like,
you mean to tell me that the team that doesn't have a point guard is a bad passing team?
They just refuse to do it. They just don't pass the basketball. Like they want to play drive and kick basketball and don't drive and kick. Like it's all drive to score. So it's just, I watched Arkansas again against that Illinois game, and you just see the physical tools that they have, and you see the athletes in transition, but their offensive plan is just head down and drive. And I don't know how much that's going to work in the SEC, especially when the athletes just continue to get going better. And I mean, 3 of the last 4 years, maybe 3 years in a row, the SEC has been number 1 in the league in shot blocking. Like Arkansas is going to get its stuff packed a lot at the rim this year.
They don't even have like the elite athletes that like Kentucky teams would have had.
They can't. They have two. They can't use them.
Like Adu Thiero, yes, okay, fine, but like who else? Like, is Billy Richmond the second best athlete on this team?
Like Knox and Richmond are supposed to be, but like these systems also.
I've had enough of Carter Knox. I've had enough of that discourse.
Like that's what those guys are supposed to be for this team, though. But like, if you watched Justin Edwards last year, I don't know why you would think that like Knox and Richmond would have any like different impact.
Well, and then I wonder how much that plays moving forward in the portal as well, because it's like, and in recruiting, it's like, how many wings in a row does this have to be where like we see the same thing with these wings year after year? Yeah, right. That's another one. It's year after year after year. These wings are not exceeding expectations, even meeting expectations, let alone like, having breakout seasons. It's like, how often do we have to see this path before it starts to bite him in the butt? And Cal, to his credit, it doesn't bite him in the butt. He keeps getting these guys every single year. I don't understand it.
It's that Tyson chicken money.
Well, that's fair.
And kids get bad info.
Okay, to another game that the ACC won, Clemson and Kentucky, and this was a doozy of a ball game. It's just two teams that could be Final Four in my eyes. I've looked at. I mean, Clemson's high-low action is some of my favorite stuff that I've seen all year. What they do with Shefflin and lock-in, and what they have with Wiggins, they just have so many guys that I think are – sorry, not so many guys. They just have a 5 that can really compete with just about anyone in the country. And then Kentucky's got a really deep team, and you never know who's going to be the guy on a given night. You could throw out so many different lineups. On this night, it was Otega Owe and Lamont Butler who provided the offense, and Butler didn't even do it in a ton of minutes. Obviously, he was in a little bit of foul trouble. That kind of stifled Kentucky and didn't really let them have as much rhythm as they would have hoped. I think that we're kind of seeing that Kirk Kriisa is Kirk Kriisa. He has shot 24% from three this year. If Kirk Kriisa is shooting 24% from three, he is the Rocky Andradikishvili of the SEC. And that's kind of the problem.
I thought it was interesting that a couple thoughts. I thought it was interesting Kobe Brea, 17 minutes. I think that's partially goes back to Clemson's does a really good job of finding mismatches and posting you up with their three guys that are 6'8" and taller. So I think that's one of the reasons. The other thing, and this is maybe a different subplot, what has gotten into some of these like fifth-year COVID seniors? Like the player that Lamont Butler is now is not remotely close to the player that he was the last couple years. He's awesome right now. He's awesome. He's shooting like 65% at the rim or 65% on twos, I believe, this year. And it's just constant rim pressure. It's like constantly getting 2 feet into the paint. I could go down the list of some of these fifth-year seniors that guys that probably shouldn't be eligible in a previous life that are really turning into different players right now. Like they're really transforming into something that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, Kentucky lost, and yeah, you wish that they had knocked down a couple more threes. Part of that was some of the lineups late. They had Otega Owe on the floor late. He had a couple good looks that didn't go down. I still like that team. I really still like that team. I thought they're tough. I thought they were physical on the glass in the second half. And Butler is really, really good. And this version of him is not something that I was really expecting. I don't want to go as far to say as he is their go-to guy, because I think their go-to guy is the system, but he's pretty darn close to their go-to guy.
Low-key, Clemson has one too. Like Chase Hunter has been phenomenal this year. And like we kind of saw it with him in March last year. And, determining how guys are going to be from this, 4-game sample size in March is always tough. But, he has like developed real tools here and looks more explosive and aggressive than he ever has in his college career. He just they can go to that high-low, and then he gives them kind of a different dimension of attacking on the perimeter and in transition.
And he's big. He's so big. And I think that's the thing I noticed with Clemson is just like how much raw size they have compared to some of these ACC teams that they're going to go up against. Like they're going to be able to post up teams to death. Like Miami, like they're going to just destroy them with their physicality. I think that they're going to give Louisville a really hard time with their physicality. Teams like Carolina, like is going to have a hard time with their physicality, stuff like that. So like, I think Clemson, is clearly the second best team in the ACC in my head, like what I've seen so far this year.
Yeah, I tweeted the other night that the best two ACC teams won their challenge game.
Yeah, I agree with that right now.
All right. And anything else that we want to talk about from this? The one thing, just kind of quick rapid fire, like go less than a minute on these because we got to get to the next league. 3 different things. I'm going to start with Georgia. Georgia just played its last game without Deshane Montgomery, who I think has a chance at being their best guard. He's a dynamic player. We've talked about this so much on the podcast. I've covered him to death, basically. I wrote the whole feature on him. I have another feature coming out soon. My first feature of the year coming out soon. It's not on Montgomery. It's a Mac guy. But regardless of that, he's got a chance to be really good. They are now 8-1 with the 28th ranked defense in the country, killed Notre Dame. And Jonathan, what is your last takeaway from the ACC SEC Challenge?
I don't want to hear it from these ACC people in February. Like that's literally all it is. This league is terrible. It's worse than it was last year. It's worse than it was the year before. All
right, Isaac.
One thing that I noticed a little bit. Trey Johnson has been a guy that has a checkered history, I would say, from the high school type of you hear about him. It's like, oh, he's somebody who's like, I don't know if he's a winner. Like he's going to take some bad shots. Like those are the type of things. That dude has been awesome this year. Like I get some of the stuff that he hasn't been doing great, like not getting to the rim a lot, doesn't have a ton of creation, but the tough shot making is insane. And then last night against NC State, they went at him twice, back-to-back possessions with less than a minute to go, one-on-one isolations, Texas up by 2, we need a stop. And he got a stop twice. And he's fired up about it. Like like he cares about this stuff. He cares about winning. So it's just weird. Like some of the narratives of what you hear about somebody in high school versus what he's shown so far early. I've been kind of impressed with him as what he could potentially be. I'm not saying I've changed my tune on Texas because I haven't. I'm just saying I've changed my tune a little bit on like the competitive spirit that Trey Johnson has, and that was on full display last night.
He was the number one player in the class once upon a time.
And the last thing that I want to say about the ACC SEC Challenge is something in the orange tells me we might be done. To paraphrase a singer-songwriter who shall not be named because of the things that he has done to women. All right, moving on to the Big 12 Big East battle, which is super fun. UConn, man, they needed that so bad. It just feels like the energy has, like it's better. It hasn't been fixed. There's still a cloud hanging over this because who knows how good Baylor is. But especially without VJ, with Jeremy Roach hurt, with Norchad fouled out, Celestine fouled out, they were down to 5 guys. But UConn didn't have Alex Karaban in this game. And when you don't have Alex Karaban and you can still pull out a win in a game like this, you can tough it out, grit it out, come back from down big early, and just be comfortable for a good portion of that second half where you're up by a couple possessions. That was huge. I think that the immediate firestorm that was the Maui discourse has settled. And at least until Sunday, Connecticut can breathe.
Yeah, a couple nuggets from that game. I thought Hassan Diarra bouncing back a little bit was important. 7 assists to 1 turnover was needed. You know, I still have some wonders if Ahmad Noel is that best guard on that team eventually and will end up taking that job. But I think for now, Diarra's earned that trust. Again, at home, finding ways to get that done. Solid ball, off movement shooting early in the first half, I thought was really impressive. The 2 big lineup was decent with the ability to get some stops when they had Johnson and Terrace Reed on the floor together. Good to see Aiden Mahaney get going. You know, I think, again, I talked about it all offseason. Mahaney to UConn, like he was one of the top catch and shoot guys in the portal last year, shot like 47% on catch and shoots, and he goes to a system that created the most catch and shoot threes in the country. Like I thought it was going to work because of that, and because of the 3-point shooting that he adds. If he can clean things up defensively, I still think this group can be pretty good offensively. I don't think this team is going to be awesome defensively, but I still think they're a top 25 team in the country. I guess if that's kind of a hot take, maybe it is, but I think they are.
It really shouldn't be, Jonathan. Anything?
I'll take the other angle of this. If Jeremy Roach doesn't hit that crazy shot to beat St. John's a couple week and a half ago in the Bahamas.
Well, they beat Virginia, so.
I know. I'm getting there. If Jeremy Roach doesn't hit that crazy shot to beat St. John's a week and a half ago, are we talking about Baylor like potentially missing the NCAA tournament? Because I still don't think they look good at all. And I know like they're missing Edgecombe, and hypothetically his talent is more of a role as the season goes on. But like you probably are not going to like if you go 500 in the Big 12, you're probably going to get in the NCAA tournament. But like this feels like a team that could win like 8-12 in the Big 12 right now.
Oh, I think that's a little bit. I think that's a little bit harsh. I just think this team's too talented to go 8-12 with a coach like Scott Drew. I know we've talked about the assistant brain drain there without John Jacobs, without Jerome Tang, but like Scott Drew is Scott Drew. He's hired great assistant coaches for a very, very long time. And I think that eventually this team will be good enough to, I mean, their KenPom projects 12-8 in the Big 12. I don't think they're going to go 4 games worse than that.
I think you're probably right. I think this is another one of these examples of these transfer heavy teams that have a lot of kinks to clean up in the beginning of the season. There's just a lot of new faces, and the light's not going to flicker on for them, quite as easily, especially with some of the defensive stuff. Here's the one thing I keep looking at. You know how we talk about like shooting variance? I think a lot of people, if you're like pro Baylor, you're like, well, teams are shooting 40% from three against them. Like, surely that will go down. But I look at it a little bit differently. St. John's, who are the best shooters on the floor? It's Aaron Scott and it's Brady Dunlap. How many attempts did they get? 11. Okay. Now let's go to Tennessee. Who's the best shooter on the floor? Chaz Lanier. How many open looks is he getting? Oh, he shot 10 threes. Let's go to UConn. Who are the best shooters on the floor? Liam McNeely, Salabal. They got 13 attempts up. Same thing with Gonzaga. Like, their best shooters are getting great looks. Well-connected, well-scouted defenses don't let the best shooters get free looks like this. And so, like, that's the area that I'm continuing to look at. Like, they can be awesome with their dribble drive, but that defense against shooters better get cleaned up in a hurry, because it's a mess right now. The best shooter on every opposing scouting report is getting unbelievable looks against Baylor. I don't think that 40% number right now with the threes is an anomaly.
I think at some point, like, if you're looking at that and you're Scott Drew, you have to do something about it, and you have to maybe change the way you scout. And if that happens and Baylor starts hemorrhaging points in another way, then I'll be concerned. But I do trust Scott Drew enough to the point where I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now to kind of figure that out. But yeah, like, you're right. Like, this is a team that has been giving up good looks to good shooters. Just for fun, I want to look at Arkansas because they have no idea what they're doing. Oh, Arkansas, Big Z didn't take a three in that game, which means Arkansas probably should have won.
I don't know if we're gonna have a normal conversation about Arkansas on the show the rest of the year.
No, not a chance. Not a chance. Everything is gonna be us just ribbing on Big Z, who, by the way, if he declared for the draft after 5 minutes in college basketball, would have been the number one pick.
He would be making a lot of money right now.
He is still making a lot of money right now, probably.
Yeah.
So that's Baylor, UConn. I didn't get to watch a ton of Marquette, Iowa State, but like, Keyshawn Gilbert is maybe one of the 5 best players in college basketball right now. Like, he is unreal. He's number 5 in Ken Pom Player of the Year right now. Broom, Flag, Cam Jones, PJ Haggerty, Keyshawn Gilbert. That's 3 dudes that played in Maui. Keyshawn Gilbert he was Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year or something 2 years ago when he was at UNLV. He's now up to 28% usage. His assist rate has gone up 8%. His turnover rate has gone down 5%. And he is so good. He's so fast getting to the basket at 6'4", 6'5". He's strong. He gets whatever he wants against basically any guard that he's facing. He can blow by you. He can use his strength. And he finishes around the rim with relative ease. I mean, he's 60% inside the arc this year. I could pull up his rim finishing numbers, but I feel like that's pretty pointless at this point because just how good he is. And Josh Jefferson, man, that was the most obvious perfect portal fit in the history of perfect portal fits, Isaac.
When everybody who cares about college basketball goes, Josh Jefferson to Iowa State's a really good get, I think we probably should pay attention. Like, everybody said that, and it's right on the money. I thought yesterday's for Iowa State was a big time shout out to their portal scouting work. I think the ability to get Jefferson was good. Deshaun Jackson was great. How about Nate Heisey, man? Shout out Missouri Valley out of northern Iowa. Sir. Yeah, what he did defensively against Cam Jones in the second half, or even in the first half for stretches, was awesome. He was great defensively yesterday against them. So I still have a few questions about Iowa State's interior defense. I don't think their bigs are quite as mobile or as vicious as they were last year on that back end, but they can really score. This offense is so much better than what it was in the past. They're playing with way more pace. They get easier looks, and the portal additions, look like grand slams. Like, and then the year 2 transfer breakout. I'm gonna keep saying it till I'm blue in the face, but like Keshawn Gilbert, year 2 transfer, like him being an All-American would not be surprising after the long list of All-Americans that we've had that are year 2 transfers in the past couple of years.
Jonathan, I texted you this summer. I was like, hey, who could be the 2-time transfer All-Americans? Why did none of us say Keshawn Gilbert?
Yeah, that was a miss. You were hung up on the Grant Nelson stuff, if I remember correctly.
I said Grant Nelson because it was the first name that I thought of, not because I actually thought it could happen.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't think that.
Look again. Grant Nelson, PDT, and KJ are the reason why Alabama made the Final Four last year.
I don't think people are going to talk at all this year about how important and how good Deshaun Jackson is for this team. I mean, when Iowa State took him and Chatfield in the portal, it kind of felt like they were just like, they're going to replace the guys from last year because, they were very satisfied with what those guys did for them. Even if they weren't the most stat sheet stuffers, but Jackson is like miles better than any of those bigs that they've had in the last couple years. And it gives them another look that they didn't have offensively the last couple of years. He's just so much better around the rim at catching and finishing. And, not taking away from anything from Robert Jones or Hassan Ward, who were both really good for this team in their own right. But if Jackson's going to give you that offensively, it elevates your ceiling a ton.
The skill level between the front courts between last year and this year is wildly different. Just wild. I mean, they ran an inbounds play yesterday. They ran a fake inbounds play with like 3 seconds left on the shot clock to try to get like a 3, I think, for Gilbert. And the Jackson slipped it and popped a 17-foot jumper from the elbow. Like none of their bigs last year could do that. None. And he knocked it down. It was ended up being a big shot. By the way, look this up too. Iowa State, 1.14 points per possession on baseline out of bounds plays so far this year. They are cooking with it. They scored 11 points yesterday, or I think 13 points, yesterday, off of out of bounds plays, baseline out of bounds plays, and sideline out of bounds plays against Marquette. They're stealing points. CJ Otzelberger is stealing points on their blobs. And they use one exact play. It's like a triangle type of out of bounds play 3 different times and got 3 different buckets on it from the first option, the second option, and the third option. Like they were in their bag yesterday against Marquette.
Jonathan, they're the number 2 high major team in points per possession off of these baseline out of bounds plays. You know what the next words out of my mouth are going to be, right?
Do I?
Who's number 1?
Oh, God. I mean, it's not UConn, right?
It's Penn State.
Okay.
Penn State. West Virginia is number 3. Marquette.
Oh, yeah, that one doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Darien. Shout out Missouri Valley. We'll talk Valley pretty soon, probably. Just to keep going with this, on ATOs, number 1 is Pitt, and number 2 is Penn State. On sideline out of bounds, number 1 is Miami. So they do something right.
Yeah, how's that working out for them?
How's their out of bounds defense?
Jim Larinaga is going to hang the number 1 on sideline out of bounds banner.
Can their sideline out of bounds defense be any better?
I'm actually going to check what their sideline out of bounds defense is.
I think only 2. Also, we should probably do the what is Matthew Cleveland's final record going to be from college thing. And then I also think that there's only 2 players on Miami who care, but continue.
All right. Moving forward, because we don't have a ton of time left. I would like to keep you on as long as we can, but I understand if you do have to leave soon. Just continuing with the Big East Big 12 Challenge, Big 12 battle. 3, I mean, we've already talked about one of them, but 3 more gigantic wins for the Big East in home games that they really needed. We'll start on Monday night. Was it Monday night or was it Tuesday night? On Tuesday night in Villanova, not in Philadelphia. They played this game at the Pavilion, and Eric Dixon is the number 1 scorer in high major basketball. He's the number 2 scorer in all of Division I basketball right now, behind only he who shall not be named. This is a team that is unbelievably reliant on him. It's all right. Let's do it. We're calling them the Villanova Eric Dixons for the rest of the year.
I like it.
New podcast bit. It's the Mike Boynton. It's the Mike Boynton Oklahoma State thing. I will be boycotting Villanova games when Eric Dixon is off the floor.
I mean, if you look at his KenPom page, some of the stuff is just absurd.
And if you put it together, like, wouldn't Cincinnati be like one of the teams on the short list of like, if you were trying to stop Eric Dixon, you'd want your roster to look like this?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter.
He's Vandego. You got Page. You got Lukosius. You've got big guys across this lineup. Doesn't freaking matter.
Dude's stud. Dude is a stud.
Yeah, I mean, he'll win
best
games.
Big in the country right now, besides Chennai.
Do we?
I mean, he's not really playing. He's not really playing the 5 this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a 4, best 4 in the country.
Do we call Flag a 4?
Flag is kind of in everything.
Yeah, he's like a point forward.
Yeah, he's the queen on the chessboard. Yeah, no, best 4. I think that. I mean, he would be on that short list, probably number 1. He's nuts.
That, I mean, just I wrote about this in Rise and Shine, just how big of a win that is for the Big East. That's going to be a quad 1 win for the entire year. Another game that I think will end up being a quad 1 win from Tuesday night in the Big East, and it's Providence over BYU. And having Bryce Hopkins back, it changes the energy of this Providence Friars basketball team. You can just tell how he was the heart and soul. Yes, it helps that BYU wasn't shooting. It helps that it's a freshman team with Cannon Catchings and Igor Demin, who are 2 elite freshman players who I've been harping on for a long time. That they shoot a combined 1 for 18 from the field. But I mean, that's what the dunk does to you. They needed that win so badly. I think that ends up being a quad 1 win because I think BYU is going to be a top 30 team.
Is this the weirdest box score you've seen this year? I can't think of a weirder
offensive rebounds and they lose.
Literally, BYU shot 69 shots. Providence shot 27 fewer shots, and Providence won by 19 points. Like, that is just bonkers.
Getting 21 offensive rebounds and shooting 36% from 2 is seems like a wild anomaly.
How many second chance points did BYU have?
Not enough, clearly. But the one thing I kept thinking about too, and I texted somebody about this with Providence, and it was like he was right. They said that they basically ditched trying to offensive rebound. Providence did. We're not going to offensive rebound. We have to get back in transition and stop BYU's transition threes. If they're making threes in transition, we are cooked.
Yes.
And so I looked it up.
We talked Mississippi State.
Oh,
there's a good comment.
Yeah, Mississippi State. I would love to talk about them again. They're delightful.
I called them SEC Iowa State. So
anyway, back to Providence. They had 2 offensive rebounds, just a 10% offensive rebound rate. Which is by far the lowest of the season, one of the lowest of the Kim English era. But it was all on purpose. They're like, we're not going to chase offensive rebounds if we can afford it. Because if you remember, back in the battle for Atlantis, Indiana was destroying them in transition. They're like, we can't let BYU do this. So they punt on offensive rebounds. They get back in transition. They only gave up 8 points in transition to BYU, which is one of the lowest marks of the season for BYU. And Providence wins.
Yeah. 18 second chance points, by the way, which is a good amount of second chance points if you have 16 offensive rebounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not
you should. Well, Isaac, what would you say is a good rate for second chance points per offensive rebound?
Man, I have not thought about something like this before.
I've been thinking about this a lot this year because Autry has talked about offensive rebounds, and that team blows.
Yeah, I think it's more nuanced than that. The way I think about offensive rebounding is that I want to do 3 things well offensively. I want to have a good shot diet. I don't want to turn it over, and then I want to offensive rebound off that. So if I can do all 3 of those things well, I feel like you're going to have a good offense. Point blank. Good shot diet. Don't turn it over. offensive rebounds, it's hard to mess that up. And you just kind of give yourself enough bites at the apple.
Yeah, agreed. Moving forward, we've discussed those games. DePaul, a moment of silence for undefeated DePaul. All right. Thank you for respecting our culture. Anything else from the Big East, Big 10?
Creighton,
Big 12
Kansas?
battle? Oh, Creighton, Kansas. We forgot to talk about Creighton, Kansas. Kansas plays Mizzou coming up on Sunday, Jonathan. I don't want to talk about that game, but I do want to talk about the Creighton game and Pop Isaacs.
Well, like, I'll start on the Kansas side of this because, like, you know, I think it's the more important takeaway here. Like, my friend David wrote an article for, you know, our radio station. It's basically like
I read it.
The premise of the article is just like, yeah, like this is what Mizzou needs to do to beat Kansas. Like this is how you can expose them. It's obviously tough, but like, and one of the key things he did was he said was, you know, you have to make DeJuan Harris into a shooter, and that's exactly what Creighton did. And DeJuan Harris took 21 shots on yesterday. And Kansas did not play well at all offensively.
I don't want to minimize what Creighton did. Great win, good job. Blue Jays are a good team. Like I still feel like they're a decent team, and especially when they make threes at home, that's great. I like the plan, but like you can't do that against Kansas when Rylan Griffin's on the floor. Like this plan doesn't work if Rylan Griffin's playing, in my opinion. Like throwing 4 dudes in the paint, I don't think works against a shooter like that because we've seen him be capable of knocking down, 3, 4, 5, 6 threes in a game. So like, I think it was the perfect storm a little bit because Kansas, remember, had a chance to win this game in the second half. Like they had trimmed it, gotten another couple runouts in transition. I think they were only down 3 at one point. Like they had a chance to win that game. And I feel like this whole recipe to beat Kansas ain't going to work when Griffin plays, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but again, I think it's important that Creighton just kind of came out and punked them from the start. You start hitting shots, and that's contagious when you're at home. You hit shots. They hit 12 threes in this game. They completely pounded them on the glass. And again, DeJuan Harris, 21 shots. Like that's gonna be the thing that we keep mentioning. The number one number to look at for Kansas is that DeJuan Harris shot number. And we're going to be talking about that all year long.
One extra Creighton point. Do you guys follow Pop Isaac's dad on Twitter?
No.
What does Pop have to say?
So he's actually battling cancer right now, but a lot of coaches really know him really well. He's been very involved in the high school basketball scene. He called his son a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get every night. And I thought that was unbelievable self-awareness from his dad.
That's a wild thing to say about your son.
Let him cook. Let him cook. I wish every parent was like him. Obviously, aside from the health part, I hope he's doing better very soon because he's a gem of a human being.
I saw that tweet last night and I was like, that is unbelievable. Like, I would love to steal that, but it's not my kid.
That rocks.
That's awesome.
That rocks.
Oh my God.
Anyway, also, when Creighton, though, I thought that Creighton might have found something offensively as well, too, with some of those flare screens. They ran that great last year for Shireman. And so when they were doing that this game as well, just Kalkbrenner just comes up, does a great job of just labeling dudes. And when Pop is feeling it, like holy crap, like he can get rolling too. So I think offensively.
Yeah, I didn't watch like a ton of this. They could probably have some success running those to McAndrew too. Agreed.
McAndrew can really fill it up too, and I feel like Creighton just shoots so much better at home than on the road. Maybe it just is, but it just feels that way. But another takeaway I think from this is pray for Dennis Gates because I feel like Kansas is going to come out ready to roll against Mizzou this weekend.
If Mizzou comes out with the same defensive game plan that they've come out in every single game in the Dennis Gates era, it will go very similarly to how it went 2 years ago.
I said to Jonathan before you got here that Jonathan, you're really excited to cover this game. It's going to be 77-39.
I'm just like excited to be able to say I covered a Mizzou Kansas game. I'm not like anticipating a lot, but I'll take any chance I get.
The crowd will be nice for the first 7 minutes, and then they'll all leave.
I'll take any chance I get to cover KJ Adams in person too.
One of my favorite players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier lost to TCU tonight. They really need that win in the crosstown shootout because right now their only top 100 non-conference win is a neutral against South Carolina. That's not good. Nothing more on Xavier. I unless you have something.
Yeah, I watched this game. Xavier just leaves me wanting a little bit more. It feels like they just shoot themselves in the foot over and over again with like toughness plays. 15 turnovers and just couldn't offensive rebounding save their life. I felt like TCU got 10 offensive rebounds, and it felt like a lot more, to be honest, watching that game. So maybe Traore was a lot bigger loss than maybe I gave it credit for in the preseason, because that feels like someone who could have helped them tonight on the glass.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. 1 sec. I'm just trying to check a score. Oh, no. Our boys are losing, Jonathan.
Riverside?
Yeah. Our Riverside boys are losing at halftime to CSUN.
Is Irvine winning?
I don't know. But to be fair, Andy Newman is also a great coach. Irvine is winning by 5. Moving on. Anything else you saw in the Big East Big 12 battle?
Let me go back and look and see what games we haven't gone over.
We have not gone over, obviously, St. John's K-State because it hasn't happened yet. Seton Hall plays Oklahoma State on Sunday. Again, another one we haven't talked about.
I didn't really get to watch it. I'm kind of glad I didn't, looking at the final score. But, this Texas-NC State game looks like it was, every bit of a disgrace that I thought it would be.
Yeah, no, it was.
I'm glad I didn't have it on then.
All right. Moving forward, Big Ten play has kicked off.
Yeah, can we talk?
We already have a court storm. And it's a place that stormed last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
A different opponent, different arena.
I was going to say different building.
But Gary Parrish, you might have to start respecting the Bryce Jordan Center.
I'll pass that along.
He said this morning that he doesn't respect the Bryce Jordan Center. Well, I don't know, man. You got to start respecting it.
You can understand why when, they look like they did against Illinois last year in that, whatever,
the Rec
office
Hall.
Building or whatever it is.
The Rec Hall.
Play all the games at Rec Hall. That was sick, I thought. Super loud.
It was. I'm on that team too, but if you're respecting buildings and you're not respecting the building that Purdue lost in, I feel like I've called out GP and Norlander a good amount on this show.
GP will be half Nittany Lion tomorrow, I think.
They don't have a pod tomorrow, so
shame.
They did the Final Four and 1 today. Although the top 25 and 1 comes out tomorrow, I hope that he's half Nittany Lion in addition to good percentage Boilermaker. We could do we could how there's the talk to a podcast.
I was actually going to say the same thing. If you and I turned this into a podcast where we just analyze the college basketball podcast, it would be just as good.
That would be such a. I would listen to that. I would so listen to the Eye on College Basketball podcast.
Their bits are unbelievable.
Anyway, Purdue tonight.
I need the Isaac Trotter, Kyle Boone, Eye on College Basketball podcast from CBS Sports.
Hey, let's go on to these games so Isaac can get out of here.
Yeah, me and Kyle are beefing right now because for multiple reasons. One, he moved Auburn out of number 1 on his power rankings, and I didn't understand that at all. And 2, he's the nicest guy on the absolute planet, and I have to find some reason to hate on what he does.
Who did he put number 1?
Tennessee.
Okay, that's fair. I understand. Tennessee.
I would have kept Auburn. I also
Tennessee
thought it was
awesome. Even if the team that they played against this week is, well, Jonathan, you know what I'm going to say here.
I also found it just like very odd that like the Duke Auburn game ended and the first thing people wanted to talk about were like, oh, who's the number one team in the country? Guys, it's December 4th. Like,
all right. The first thing I want to say about Purdue Penn State is, wow, this Penn State team just completely got Purdue out of its element. You don't see a Purdue team this frazzled ever. One ball handler. They have one primary ball handler, that's Braden Smith. And if you can kind of get the ball out of his hands, kind of force their other guys to play you, you can really make them struggle. TKR had 7 turnovers. Lawyer had 5. And at that point, it doesn't matter that Ace Baldwin has 5 turnovers of his own and that he takes 5 shots as he gets into the line like crazy. He's really making life difficult for these guards trying to stay in front of him. And you can also kind of compete with them on the glass and just kind of make their life hell on the perimeter defensively. You didn't see this from Purdue last year because they had such a great safety valve. I'm not concerned, but I do think there's a blueprint to beating them and that Purdue doesn't really have an answer for right yet.
Well, I mean, as much as things change, things stay the same. Like, this has been the game plan to beat Purdue for years. Since Edey was here, like as soon as he started get going, you look at it last year, some of their highest turnover rate games. I'm just pulling it up right now. A loss at Nebraska, they had a 22% turnover rate. A loss against Wisconsin, 22% turnover rate. Yeah, 21%. This has been the recipe for it. So as much as things change, Edey leaves, the recipe to beat Purdue has not changed at all. I think Marquette and Penn State are both teams super equipped to turn them over. I wonder if some of the pivot will be for Purdue moving forward is like, hey, can we get Jakari Harris, CJ Cox on the floor together with Braden Smith to try to get more ball handlers out there? That could be something that they try to do a little bit more often. Don't know if I love that defensively, but yeah, no, it could be against those teams. The other impact to this, there's not many teams in the Big Ten that like to play this way. So I wonder if Purdue will be fine long term, but maybe it's just a regular reminder that winning on the road in the Big Ten is hard. The gap between number 1 and number 18 in this league is really slim, and all 18 of these teams are going to somehow finish 10-10.
So I think that
again, just one more thing. Like, yeah, you mentioned it. Like, the Big Ten isn't a havoc type league, and Mike Rhodes, obviously, he's not Shaka. He's not doing the Shaka havoc from VCU. And ironically, the 2 coaches that have both beaten Purdue are the former VCU coaches. Although they're both playing a little bit differently than they did at VCU, it's still there. Like, with the ball pressure being the identity of the team on the defensive side, they're 4th in the country in turnover rate defense, and that's what you need to look at with the team. And especially Penn State can be dangerous if Zach Hicks is shooting as well as he is right now, because he has been awesome on both ends of the floor.
So my concern with Purdue would be, Isaac, I think you hit it on the head when you said that, like, it's pretty hard to replicate what Penn State does defensively, especially like, across, just anyone. It's hard to do it. However, I think that, like, maybe you can't execute this as well as Penn State, but I do think there are some teams in the Big Ten that can play that way against Purdue if they so choose to do so. Michigan, UCLA, maybe like a Maryland or Rutgers, depending on the night. But I don't want to I'm not by no means writing Purdue off or sounding alarm bells by any means, because they have
somebody is sounding alarm bells.
Yeah, they have the best coach in the conference, and they have the best pedigree of winning in the league right now. But at the same time, like, it was weird to really watch Purdue get that rattled for the first time in what felt like a very, very long time.
Yeah, Isaac, you were kind of talking about the turnover rate in the games that they lost last year. They had 33% turnover rate tonight. Like, that is way higher than anything you mentioned. Like, this was an outlier game, but it was a really strange outlier game to watch. I'm not concerned about Purdue. I think this game honestly might say more about Penn State than it does about Purdue. That this Penn State team, like, obviously the loss to Clemson, but Clemson might be a top 15 team in the country.
Yeah, no, I've started to recalibrate my expectations about Penn State. Like,
I am very excited for this game against Rutgers on Tuesday. I'm driving down one day late to possibly see that, even though I would go to the Jimmy V if I were back anyway.
Joe has been singing the praises.
Yeah, no, Joe said today he thought that this team might be top 4 in the Big Ten, Penn State, eventually. Like, there's a path for that. And my first thought was, like, to recoil and, like, be like, ooh. And then it's like the kombucha meme where it's just like, oh, maybe actually, like, it's not that crazy, like, to think about them potentially getting back to that level. And I think Yannick Koenig-Niederhauser, I talked with Rhodes about this at Big Ten Media Days. He thought they found a gem there out of Northern Iowa, and he looks like more than a gem. Like, Northern Illinois, yeah. And he looks like way more than a gem. Like, the rim protection is unbelievable. His timing is great. They took away the lobs from him. I don't expect a ton from him offensively, but defensively, like, just to have that rim protection there, that they can then get even more pressure at the point of attack and just funneling everybody toward this guy. That's a recipe, I think, defensively that can really work. Like, yeah, maybe forcing turnovers is tough too, but they're also limiting shots at the rim. And I think that's going to be something that really works moving forward.
The Big Ten currently has teams in KenPom 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. That is nuts.
What a league. The team that's number 1 in the Big Ten in KenPom right now, my Ducks. They're not Ducks. My Ducks. This offseason, they were my Ducks.
Michael DeRosa's Ducks.
Honestly, I feel like I haven't even seen the version of my Ducks that I thought were my Ducks. And they're 9-0. Like, I am very excited about Oregon right now. And I think we're going to get a good game on Sunday between them and UCLA, who, again, another team I'm not close to convinced by.
I've never seen a team, like an undefeated team at this stage in the college basketball season, that, like, I've been more confused by. Like, usually at this point, if you're undefeated in a high major and you're playing in a high major league, you're either, like, totally legit or, like, you just played the worst schedule imaginable. And Oregon just feels like they, like, make up their mind about what team they want to be every single half.
Yeah, I think for me, like, the thing I've been saying privately is, like, Oregon is good, and I thought they were going to be pretty good, but the way they're doing it is so different than how I expected. I thought it was going to be the Jackson Gelstad, KJ Evans show. Nate Biddle's a pro, dude. Like, he is a pro. He is playing like an NBA player right now, and he's awesome. And they just, like, what version of Keyshawn got into Keyshawn Bartholomew? Like, I have never seen him this good in my entire life.
Last year.
And the year before, like, it's just like, I don't know what got into him. So, like, all of the role players, like TJ Bamba has been solid for them. Brandon Angel, I think, has been great in his role as predicted. And Gelstad starting to pick it up a little bit lately. He kind of got to buff his stats with free throws against USC the other night. But Oregon's really good because Biddle's phenomenal and is playing like one of the best big men in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Oregon that I thought I would see, and Nate, and it's all because other guys have been really good.
Yeah.
Any other Big Ten notes that we want? Oh, my Terps. My Terps.
Is every team yours now?
It's my Terps, my Wolverines, and my Ducks.
That's the thing about the Big Ten. I could take 12 of these teams and find, like, a reason that, like, they could be good by season's end.
Yep, this right here.
Yes, good.
Anyway, but my Wolverines go into the Kohl Center and walk out with a W. I'm sure that's a building that Gary Parrish respects, but for some reason he can't respect the BJC.
That Michigan performance was really impressive, I thought, just because
pick and roll.
Like, yeah, the invert pick and roll is great, but, like, what they were 3 weeks ago to what they are now makes me go, oh my God, like, they're going to be really good in January. Like, that's the sign of a really well-coached team, I think, with how well they've improved in just a short period of time.
Completely. And Reuben Jones fouled out in 16 minutes and scored 1 point.
Anything else you want to add from Big Ten play? Just anything on Maryland?
I mean, Maryland, I looked this up today. Their net rating with Juju and Derek Queen on the floor together is plus 50.5. That is in the 99th percentile, as it should be. And then I also looked up, too, it's not just because they're beating up on, like, the mid-majors with that lineup. Like, they've been, like, plus 48 in, like, 20, like, or plus 26, I think, in 48 minutes in their 3 biggest games of the season so far. Like, it's something nuts like that. So the 2 big lineup is working. I think it's the playmaking from Queen is phenomenal. Again, another team running more inverted ball screens. Rodney Rice looks great. And Jacoby Gillespie, I said it all offseason. I couldn't believe his numbers last year. There's no way this translates, right? And he's gotten better. It's unreal. He's unreal.
Gee, I wonder who talked all offseason about Jacoby Gillespie.
I was talking about a friend with this. I was talking about what I'm going to say with a friend last week. And I'm glad that, like, this is the result we got out of Maryland, Ohio State, because it kind of proves what we were talking about. If you've watched Texas over the last, like, couple weeks, everything that's happened to Ohio State makes, like, total sense if you watch that game opening night.
Like Ohio State makes every single 3?
Like, yeah, it's just like, if, like, Ohio State after that Texas game has since lost to A&M, in, like, pretty convincing fashion. They lost to Pitt at home on a buzzer beater, obviously, and then you get blown out by Maryland. Like, if you watch Texas and, like, understand, like, the quality of basketball team they are, it, like, makes a lot of sense why Ohio State beat them so convincingly on opening night, and also, like, what has happened to Ohio State since.
Also, the Aaron Bradshaw stuff is does not sound great.
Not great at all.
Hold on. My Dons are currently up by 20 on the Billikens.
Dude, I hate to say it. That St. Louis team is not good. And, like, I know Robbie was missed some time, but
he's back now. No excuses.
Those role players that, like, we talked about on the opening night show, Sam, really are not coming around.
No, not at all. Isaac, I think we got to let you go now. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We do have a little bit more that we got to get into. Isaac, is there any last point that you want to make? Just, I'll give you the floor for a minute or two to just, like, spew on anything that's caught your eye in college basketball, because I know you watch a lot of ball. Just most fun thing you've seen.
Nick Martinelli little floaters and runners is, like, one of the most unguardable shots in college basketball. And Chop Balchor out of Arkansas Pine Bluff is, like, a guy I'm obsessed with right now. He shoots from the absolute parking lot against Mizzou. He had 6 threes. Against Kansas State, he had 3 more threes. 6'8", 175. And I mean, it is logo 3 after logo 3 after logo 3, and he's shooting 52% from 3. He's delightful. But thank you so much for having me. Those are my parting thoughts.
I saw your tweet on that, and I was trying to find the Arkansas Pine Bluff transfer meme, and I couldn't find it because that would have worked perfectly.
Yes,
needed it.
The other thing is, like, I have watched Nick Martinelli my entire childhood. Like, he grew up playing 15 minutes from my house, and his older brother, who now plays at U Chicago, they have the exact same style. Nick's bigger, he's more athletic, but, like, they have been making those little floaters since they were both, like, 6 years old.
At trivia time, where did Nick Martinelli originally commit to out of high school? What was his first
I know
commit?
this, Sam, do you? He committed to Elon.
Because his brother went there?
He committed to Elon, and then Mike Schrage left to go join the coach.
That checks, just, like, looking at what I saw from Elon last week.
And Illinois State thought that they were getting Martinelli and were so excited about it. And then at the last second, he flips to Northwestern, and they were all like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, they thought, like, they couldn't believe it. And now he is a Northwestern legend. And Illinois Northwestern, I think tomorrow I'm going to head up to Evanston for that game. So that should be a fun one.
I would be very scared for other Valley teams if he was at Illinois State.
He would not still be at Illinois State. He would not still be at Illinois State.
No, he wouldn't. But the numbers he would be putting up in that league.
He might be at Illinois.
He would be putting up Marcus Damask level numbers in the Valley.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Isaac. Thank you so much.
All right, boys. Peace.
That's perfect. That's a perfect segue into a Valley update. First one of the year for conference play, Jonathan. Hit me.
Okay, so far, 10 Valley teams have played a conference game. Only 2 that have not. Missouri State and Indiana State, who play, forget if it's tomorrow or this weekend, but they play sometime this week. Short victory lap time for me because, it's a 20-game league. We're only 1 game into conference play. But of my top 6 in the conference, 5 of them won their first game. The only one that didn't was Illinois State, who lost an overtime game shorthanded on the road to another top 6 team. So both of them couldn't win. However, most impressive teams so far. I thought Bradley looked really good the other night. Southern Illinois talked a little about Sam with you about how shorthanded and worse I thought they would be without Elijah Elliott, the transfer, who's was supposed to be one of the best transfers in the league. He's out for the year, and Southern Illinois' ball handling and shot creation goes way down with him out of the lineup. But on the Bradley side of this, getting a 23-point road win in the Valley is impressive, no matter who it's against. Hand up, I was wrong about Zeke Montgomery. He is fitting in here perfectly. I said before the season that Zeke was literally only all conference in the preseason because he was a recognizable name in a league with a lot of new faces. He is not that. 22 points on 5 threes. He's been phenomenal. This Bradley team might be the deepest that Brian Wardle has ever had, or at least since I have been covering them. You have guys like Ahmet Janovic and Connor Dillon who had played key minutes in other games that only played 7 minutes apiece a couple nights ago. So, yeah, a really impressive start to the season for Bradley. I don't want to take anything away from Washington State, who I also think is good, but that result looks more and more like an anomaly as we go along. Not to say that Washington State wouldn't have won that game if we played it again, but probably not by 17. Some other results around the conference. Drake stays undefeated. Not going to get too much into this.
My Bulldogs.
Huh?
My Bulldogs.
Yes. Yeah. 8-0. Didn't play their best tonight, but Bennett Sturts was excellent once again. Drake fans that I follow were, kind of relieved that they went to Valpo and won. They don't play there well ever, apparently. They would know better than I. Murray State just keeps kind of messing around with me. They play really well for 30 minutes against Pitt and lose by 15. They go to Middle Tennessee State and win by 20 against a team that I think is pretty good.
All right. Your time's up.
Oh, can I finish my Murray State thoughts?
You don't get added time.
No, please. I'll make this quick.
All right, go.
Then they lose to Utah Valley. And Evansville, a team that hasn't looked all that impressive, comes to Murray, and Murray State wins by 2. I don't know what to make of them at this point. Actually, you know what? I do know what to make of them. They're an inconsistent, good basketball team. That's what I thought they would be. And they'll probably finish top 6 in the league. They'll, have some games where they look really impressive. They could beat really good teams. They'll probably lose to some bad ones.
All right, Jonathan, it's time for a special segment on the show. Listening to Big West basketball live on the air.
No.
Here we go.
Country, and it feels like once he gets in the groove at Long Beach, then he's going to bring up everyone else around him.
Yeah, this team really runs through rescue. He's a name that's well known across college basketball for, like you said, former top high school recruit, has been to some of the bigger programs in the nation with Kentucky, Texas, and Cal. He's in his first year here at the Beach, and really this team runs through Devin Askew. When he has a good game, the Beach have a chance to win. When he doesn't, they tend to struggle. So Askew, when he's able to limit the turnovers and shoot efficiently from the field, which we have seen here tonight, he's done a nice job, and the Beach are ahead by 13.
Yeah, and it reminds me of last year's Marcus Sahonis, where he's
good analysis there from my guy Bruce on the call. if you were wondering why we were listening. But yeah, there's that. UC San Diego, Big West score update. UC San Diego's up by 1. UC Irvine is down by 1. UC Riverside is up by 1. Barrington's got 21. Scotty Washington's got 18.
Once the Big West really gets going in conference play, I will make it a point to watch those games.
Can I give a MAC update?
Please, dude.
Fairfield, man. It's so big that Dion Perry and Louis Bleachmore finally got going last night for the Stags. I know Dion had that whole weird thing at the end of the game where he was yapping to the refs all game long, and they took a 2-point lead with like a second left, and then Ryder turned it over, and Dion was like almost got into a fight, and they called a technical foul, and I thought that it was just on Perry, and I was like, oh my god, there's no way he just lost the game for Fairfield, but it was a double technical, so it didn't end up making a difference. But we got a big game tonight. A big day tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. A lot of MAC ball. 6 games that tip off at 7. Well, one that tips off at 6:30. It's our first time ever. 6 MAC games on one day.
Dude, look at this comment. Logan's providing some hard-hitting analysis here.
Good job, Logan. Good job, Logan. Logan, Tobin Anderson coaches basketball tomorrow.
Hey, according to Logan, he's going to be
future
coaching
Chicago Bears head coach Tobin Anderson.
According to Logan, he's going to be coaching like 4 different sports next year.
I thought it was 40, but whatever.
Tomato.
Moving forward. Any other mid-major stuff that you want to get into?
Man, I've been so focused on high major stuff the last couple of days that it like.
I'm gonna run through some New York State stuff.
Can I say to you what I texted you yesterday?
What did you text me yesterday?
Do people think Tommy Amaker should still get the Duke job?
Oh my god, man! Harvard.
They are 2-7 and lost to Holy Cross last night.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through some New York State stuff, both Ivy League stuff. Cornell 84, Colgate 57 at Hamilton. Did you see that score?
I did not actually. That's surprising.
Woodward is not playing right now for Colgate. They are 2-7. They are 282nd in KenPom.
I think Cornell is pretty much accomplishing like exactly what they wanted out of this year so far. Like,
yeah, they're good. They're legit.
You hired in house. You're playing the same brand of basketball. Like some of your guys are clearly getting better, and you'll have them for another year. So I think like Cornell's not going to win the league.
They're a threat.
They'll definitely win games.
Like Princeton looks. Yale looks.
Princeton
fine.
looks beatable. Like
Princeton looks beatable. Yale looks beatable. Like Cornell can win this league. They won't. They can.
Princeton looks beatable. Yale looks beatable, and now everyone's over the Columbia gimmick.
That was where I was going next. I am glad that's over for now. I'm glad that they're not going to go into the rack undefeated. I never bought this team. I buy them as the 4th best team in the Ivy League. That's the level to which.
And hey, that would be a great based on like preseason expectations. Great
based on what Columbia has been like for the last 70 years. Columbia has won 1 Ivy League championship in the last 75 years.
The only thing I'll say, like the only thing that I have to say about
Penn and Princeton won like the Ivy League title 37 years in a row or something.
One of my freshmen from Chicago that I wrote about not playing super well for them.
Yeah, Cobb, not playing a ton.
Can I read you another mid-major score that I saw last night that you actually tweeted about?
Go ahead.
Green Bay 75, IU Indy 84.
No.
Sorry, IU PUI 84.
Oh no! Wait! No, yeah, IU Indy. I thought you said.
That's what they're called now, right?
I thought you said Green Bay's won for some reason. I tweeted about that. It has 103,000 views.
Like maybe Green Bay should have hired a coach that doesn't spend his nights tweeting about the NFL. Just a thought.
Yeah, and he who shall not be named is their leading scorer.
Can you talk about Iona? We have a viewer that wants to know.
They played a hard schedule, and they have no idea who they are yet.
Iona's just not going to dominate like they did with Patino, and that's okay.
Then they're not going to dominate like the way they did with the Clues. That's not happening anymore. They're not the only team using transfers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Rick brought in 4 guys that were way better than anyone the league had.
And he did it 2 years in a row.
Right.
Well, Walter was there the first year. Well, the second year, which is the first year for this exercise.
Can you and Shields come on here and do like a third of the season Syracuse basketball updates? Actually, don't. You'll probably get canceled.
Not only will I get canceled, I think I might get kicked out of the school for that.
And Starling's hurt now, right?
Yeah, Starling's hurt. I have the cap of this pen. I'm going to throw it at the TV next time I watch Syracuse basketball. Wait,
next game.
The next time. Yeah, no. Next time I watch Syracuse basketball, will be on TV. It will not be in person. If it were in person and I threw this at the TV, that would be problematic.
Any other New York updates?
St. Peter's is New Jersey, but they beat Duquesne. Duquesne stinks. Like, real bad.
We didn't really mention it when we were talking about ACC, SEC Challenge, but like, I kind of get why Tony Bennett left.
Florida is 7th in Ken Palm right now, by the
way.
Dude,
we said it all off.
Their coach might be a creep, but like,
I'm sorry.
They kind of rock.
Jesus. Like I said it all off season about Virginia. This team was not going to be good defensively, whether Bennett was the coach or not. Like playing Andrew Rohde more and bringing in Day-Day Ames was not like the recipe to keep the pack line alive and TJ Power.
Yeah, and hiring a guy who got fired at Charlotte was also not the way to go.
I don't think he got fired, right?
Did he? I thought he did.
He was it was assumed that if he had another bad year, he was going to, but I don't think he actually got fired. I think he just went back to Virginia.
Okay. Regardless. Moving on. Last thoughts on college basketball. Anything for this weekend? I'm excited for North Texas High Point because of something I'm about to put on the screen.
Go for it.
Ross Hodge is the man.
Yeah, they can win the league.
Let's do another score check in the Big West.
Really quick, we didn't really talk about them because the game wasn't close, but I say this, they'll probably end up finishing 10-10, 11-9 in the league and getting 8 or 7 seed. But I'm kind of more in on this Michigan State team than I have been the last couple.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, every single underclassman that is playing for them has taken some sort of noticeable leap. It's impressive.
I've been able to say that about them for a few years. My last thought is going to be this. Oh man, the Mountain West escaped something last night. They were in trouble. Utah State and New Mexico were struggling. at home with teams that they should not be struggling with, and they both escaped. Ian Martinez had a big game. Mustafa Amsil had a big game for New Mexico. But New Mexico was losing late to San Jose State. Utah State struggled with Wyoming. Those are the teams that you need to be putting away regularly to win these games, to make the NCAA tournament and to keep the Mountain West as like a 4 or 5-ish bid league. I think they can be a 5 bid league this year. I think that's their ceiling. I think their floor is 3, maybe 2.
On the Mountain West, I know when we talked to Rocco during our preview, he said that like a lot of people thought it was more of like a top 7 than a top 6. Are we like, it's December 5th, and I think I'm already over this, UNLV stuff once again.
Yeah. And Colorado State's not that good.
Like Kruger is just not as good of a coach as these other coaches in the league, and their talent is not good enough to.
I think Deaton Thomas is awesome. Thomas is awesome, but
UNLV so far has done exactly what they've done throughout the entirety of the Kevin Kruger era. They are 4-3, and they have lost to the 3 best teams they've played.
Yep. All right, Jonathan. Anything else to add?
MIZ on Sunday. Not super hopeful, but
Kentucky Gonzaga on Saturday. Did you listen to Ion College Basketball this morning?
No, I actually didn't.
You're gonna have to listen to that because something wild happened when they were discussing that game.
Oh no. Guess I know what I'm doing the rest of the night.
ACC play starts on Saturday.
It does.
Syracuse plays an injured Notre Dame team.
Where's that game?
That would be a good matchup in lacrosse.
Is that game on the road?
Lacrosse. It is in South Bend. No Marcus Burton, no JJ Starling. Is it even worth watching?
Is any Syracuse game worth watching at this point?
I mean, I get paid to watch them, so.
Well, yeah, for me. I watch Syracuse. They're entertaining.
No,
can't say that about everyone.
No, they're not entertaining. I don't know why did we mention Rob Wright when we were talking about Baylor?
No, but I actually was thinking about it. I was thinking about it. Hypothetically, your 3-point defense should be okay with Roach and Nunn as your lead guards, but I wonder how much it hurts. I wonder how much worse, or if it is worse, when Wright's on the floor.
Let's see.
Both attempts wise and percentage wise.
I'll go against top 150 teams. Filter out for garbage time. Oh yeah, 44% when he's on the floor, 35% when he's on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
If I go to all teams in the country, 42-35, filter garbage off. 42-35, luck adjusted. 36-36.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What am I going to say?
What are you going to say?
Can you take us home?
If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about Arkansas and the generalities with their basketball team, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with John Calipari, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, who was in a neck brace the other night, not great. Hopefully,
latest happenings update.
Speedy recovery. We need him back. But yeah, you came to the right place if you wanted to hear about Caleb Grill. This is season 5, episode 40 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Mid Steelers. We'll see you next time.